Hello students of class 8, welcome to your English class today. Today we will learn unit 9 of your textbook Honeydew, the lesson The Great Stone Face Part 1. The story The Great Stone Face, written by the American novelist Nathaniel Hawthorne, is presented in your textbook in two parts, part 1 and 2. Today, we will learn part 1 of the story The Great Stone Face. Are you all ready? Okay. Now, have you ever seen a hill or a mountain which resembles a human face? Or sometimes, have you seen a hill which looks like an animal from a distance if you look at it from one particular angle? Have you ever seen such things? Let's see. Here are some pictures for you. Look at them. Do these mountains resemble human faces? Look at a few others. Can you see some animal figures there in those rocks? Yes. Okay, now let us come to this story, The Great Stone Face. In a remote valley in America, there sat a small boy and his mother at the door of their cottage, looking at a great stone face in the distance. Now, what is this great stone face? In the place where they lived, there was a mountain at a distance from the house of this little boy Ernest and his mother. If you looked at that hill from far, it looked like a face of a kind man. If someone approached the hill, went close by, the outline of that enormous face would disappear, and you could only find gigantic rocks heaped one upon another. Only from a distance could you see the great stone face of a man. As Ernest and his mother sat looking at this great stone face, Ernest wanted to speak to this stone face. He was sure if this stone face ever replied, he would speak in a very pleasant voice. As he looked at this mountain, his mother told him that there was a prophecy about this mountain face. What is a prophecy? It is a statement about something that will happen in the future. So there was a prophecy, and Ernest was eager to know what it was. According to the prophecy, the mother said, a man who would resemble that stone face would appear someday. Ernest was confused. What does that mean? Mother then told him a story that her mother had told her when she was younger than Ernest. According to that story, a child would be born nearby sometime in the future. The child would be the greatest and the noblest man ever, and in his manhood, his face would resemble the great stone face. There were people in the locality who believed in this story. There are some people who just thought it was yet another story. The great man who would resemble the stone face had not yet appeared. Ernest was so happy to hear this story. He clapped his hands and said, I wish I could see this man." His mother did not want to discourage him and said, "Perhaps you may." Ernest never forgot this story. And every time he remembered the story, he gazed up to the great stone face and sometimes felt that the great stone face also looked back at him. Ernest spent his childhood with his mother. He was a very dutiful boy. He was also helpful. He assisted his mother in many ways with his little hands and his loving heart. This happy yet pensive, thoughtful little child grew up to be a quiet and mild boy. Ernest did not have a teacher. He considered the great stone face to be his teacher. How can that be? Yes, every day at the end of the day's labor, Ernest sat gazing at the great stone face from his house. He also felt that the great stone face gazed back at him. He had a kind look which also encouraged him. This is how he thought the great stone face was his teacher. Now one day, the people in the locality said they were sure finally they found the man who had the face of the great stone face. It seems there was a young boy who went away to a far-off seaport. He had his own business and he earned so much of money that it would take 100 years to even count his wealth. His name was Gather Gold. He would gather gold. So this man, Gather Gold, he's old now, and he was coming back to his native valley. And the people thought, surely this must be the man who would resemble the great stone face. Ernest was also very excited. He was waiting for this man to arrive. Then one day, when he was actually gazing at the great stone face, he heard the carriage wheels rumbling. And from far, he saw a man coming in a carriage drawn by 4 horses. Everybody went near this rich man, Gather Gold, and some of them shouted in glee, "Oh, the man is come! The prophecy is true. He certainly looks like the great stone face." Ernest looked at this old man's face again and then at the great stone face. But alas, he couldn't find a similarity between the kind face of the old stone face and this shrewd, unpleasant face of the rich man. Ernest was disappointed. When he looked up at the great stone face again, it seemed to tell him, "He will come, Ernest. The man will come." Now, the part 2 of the story. Did you like the story? Yes, let's go on. Ernest grew up to be a young man, and he turned out to be a very kind and simple man. Even after he grew up, he still continued with this practice of gazing at the great stone face every day at the end of day's labor. The people around him did not like that much. They thought it was a mistake. But anyway, they pardoned him for it. He was a kind man, he was a hard-working man, and he was a friendly neighbor. So it was okay. But the people around Ernest did not understand that the great stone face had become a teacher to Ernest. They did not know that that kind face of the great stone face had enlarged Ernest's heart. That great stone face had taught him many lessons that no book could ever teach him. This went on. Time passed. Mr. Gathergold died, and his riches left him much before he died. And then the people thought, after all, he really did not resemble the great stone face. Time went on. There was excitement in the valley once again. Long back, there was a young man who went away and became a soldier. That man has become the most powerful general today. His name is Blood and Thunder. That general is old again, and now he wanted to come back to his native valley. So the people were very excited. They thought, surely this man must be resembling the great stone face. The day arrived. Everybody left their work and gathered in the place where a banquet was arranged for this great general, Blood and Thunder. Ernest also joined these people. He saw there was so much of activity going on. There were soldiers on guard, there were flags waving, and the crowds cheered. This is the man. The prophecy is true. The man has finally arrived. Ernest wasn't very close to the general, but he looked from far. The face still did not resemble the great stone face. He was disappointed again. But as he thought about this, he felt in his heart someone saying, "He will come, Ernest. He surely will come." So that's the story in part 1. I'm sure all of you want to know if the man who really resembled the great stone face ever came to the valley or not. Yes, I know you're curious, but we will have to wait for that part of the story in part 2. Okay? That will be on another day. Now, let us look at the comprehension check questions that are there at the end of this part 1. Are you ready? Okay. Look at the true or false questions on page 129. There are a few statements. You have to say whether they are true or false based on the story. Statement 1. The great stone face stood near where Ernest and his mother lived. Is that true? No, it's false. The great stone face was at a distance, and that's how you could see the face. Otherwise, you would only see a heap of rocks, right? Okay. Question 2. One would clearly distinguish the features of the stone face only from a distance. Yes, that is true. Ernest loved his mother and helped her in her work. Is that true or false? True. Number 4. Though not very rich, Gathergold was a skillful merchant. Is that true? No, that's false. We heard in the story that Gathergold was very rich. Number 5. Gathergold died in poverty and neglect. Yes, that should be true, because we were told his wealth got over much before he died. Number 6. The great stone face seemed to suggest that Ernest should not fear the general. Is that true? Yes, that's true. Now, let us look at the section working with the text. Question number 1. What was the Great Stone Face? The Great Stone Face was a work of nature. Rock upon rock was piled by nature, which looked like a face from far. Okay. Question 2. What did young Ernest wish when he gazed at it? Young Ernest wished that the stone face spoke to him. He also wished that he should see the man who resembled the stone face. Right. Let's go to the next question. Question number 2. What was the story attributed to the stone face? We all know that the story attributed to the stone face was that there would be a man born nearby in the valley who would become one of the greatest and noblest of men and would resemble the stone face. Right. Question number 3. What gave the people of the valley the idea that the prophecy was about to come true for the first time? Yes, this has to do with the rich man Gather Gold. Right you are. When Gather Gold was to return to his native village, all the people thought that as he was the richest man, he should be resembling the great stone face. Okay, next question. Question 4, part 1. Did Ernest see in Gather Gold the likeness of the stone face? Yeah, we all know that Ernest did not see any similarity between Gather Gold and the stone face. Question 4, part 2. Who did he confide in and how was he proved right? Ernest confided only in the great stone face. As Gather Gold grew old and died, and as his wealth had disappeared much before this, the people around realized he really did not resemble the great stone face. Okay, next question. Question 5, part 1. What made people believe General Blood and Thunder was their man? General Blood and Thunder had raised to the position of a general from an ordinary soldier. He was the most powerful man now. So the people thought he must be the noblest and greatest man who resembled the great stone face. Part 2. Ernest compared the man's face with the stone face. What did he conclude? When Ernest compared the general's face with the stone face, he didn't find any resemblance. Yes, we know that from the story. Okay, let's go to the next section, working with language. Working with language, question 1. Look at these two words, like and punctual. What do these words do in a sentence? These two words, like and punctual. Can you quickly make a sentence and try to find out what are the jobs of these two words in a sentence? The first one. Yes, you can have a sentence like, he is like his brother. She is very punctual. So what do these words do? They tell something about the noun. So what are they? Yes, they are adjectives. Now, from these adjectives, can you make their corresponding noun forms? Yes, like is an adjective, likeness is a noun. So what have you done? You've just added the suffix ness to like. Right. Can you try the same thing with the word punctual? No. you cannot add ness to punctual, you have to add something else. Yes, add the suffix et to punctual and it becomes punctuality, which is the noun. Now, look at the rest of the exercise. There are a few more words given there, lofty, able and so on. Can you try making these adjectives into their corresponding noun forms? Yes, let us try. Lofty would be loftiness. Right. Mark the spelling. Y becomes I. Able becomes ability. Right. What would you add to happy to make it a noun? Ness, happiness. Near, ness again, nearness. Right. What about noble? Would you add ness or et? Yes, you would add et, nobility. The next one, enormous. What would you add to enormous to make it a noun? Yes, et, enormity. There is a change in the spelling there too. Take note of that. Next one, pleasant. Yes, it is easy to add ness to pleasant and make it pleasantness. Right. Dense. Yes, of course, it has to be et and it is density. We know the word. Next one, great. What do you add? Yes, add ness to it, it's greatness. The last one, stable, add et and it becomes stability. Very good. We have just done it correctly. Now, in question 2 of working with language, you will find a few adjectives given there. Look at them. Perfect, near, kind, pleasant, eager. Now we know they are adjectives. Can you transform them into adverbs? We will try that. Let us first learn what are adverbs. Adjectives, we said, describe nouns. What do adverbs do? They describe verbs. Yes. So, let us first transform these adjectives into adverbs and then see how they can describe verbs. Okay? There is an easy way of turning adjectives into adverbs. Just add the suffix ly. So, you have the word here perfect, add ly to it, it becomes perfectly. Now, let us just put it in a sentence. He always does his work perfectly. What does perfectly do? It tells us about how he does his work, right? Okay. Now, let us look at this exercise. After you have added the suffix ly and made these adjectives into adverbs, you have to fill in the blanks in these 5 sentences with appropriate adverbs. Shall we try them? The first one. Why didn't you turn up at the meeting? We all were blank waiting for you. What do you think will fit there? If you're waiting for somebody, how would you wait? Yes, eagerly waiting for you. The next one, number 2. Blank, write your name and address in capital letters. What would you say? Usually, we would use please, but here we have to use the words given in the box. So, which one will that be? Yes, kindly. Kindly write your name and address in capital letters. Number 3. I was blank surprised to see him at the railway station. I thought he was not coming. What can that be? Yes, I was pleasantly surprised. Right. Question 4. It is blank believable that I am not responsible for this mess. Which one would fit there best? Yes, it is perfectly believable that I am not responsible for this mess. True. Last one. He fell over the step and blank broke his arm. What would be the right word? Yes, nearly broke his arm. Right. Let us now go to the last question of working with language. You have to complete each sentence using the appropriate forms of the verbs in the bracket. Let us try the first one. I blank, the verb to be used is phone, you. When I blank, verb to be used get, home from school. So what would the answer be? Yes, I phoned you when I got home from school. Right. The next one. Hurry up. Madam blank be annoyed if we blank be late. Hurry up. Yes, madam will be annoyed if we are late. Right. The next one. If it blank rain is the verb, today we blank not go to play. What do you think will be the answer? If it rains today, we shall not go to play. Right. Now, in sentence 2, we said, hurry up, madam will be angry if we are late. Now, what does will be suggest? It suggests an action which will take place in future time, and we have used the form will be to suggest future time. Now look at third sentence. If it rains today, we shall not go to play. Now it's still not raining, it might rain in the future, but we have used the form if it rains and not if it will rain. So even this form rains also can be used to suggest future time. Is that okay? All right. Let's go to the next two sentences. When you blank see Mandal again, you blank not recognize him. He is growing a beard. So what will the answer be? Yes. When you see Mandal again, you will not recognize him. He is growing a beard. Here again, when you see Mandal in future, right? So the present form used to suggest future time, right? Can you try the last one later at home? Okay. Now let us go to the speaking and writing section. Look at question 1. Imagine you are Ernest. Narrate the story that his mother told him. Now this is for you to imagine how Ernest's mother would have told him the story. Think of the scenario. The little log cottage, the great stone face at the distance, and you are the mother of Ernest telling the story. Try and write down this story at home later. When you meet your friends, you can speak to them about the story that you have written. Okay? Let's look at the second exercise. Imagine you gather gold. Write briefly the incident of your return to the valley. We have heard of the interesting arrival of Gather Gold and how the whole valley was excited to receive him. Try and imagine the whole scenario and think you are Gather Gold, the very rich man, and how the whole valley received you. Try and make up a story keeping that scenario in mind and write it down. You can tell this story too to your friends when you meet them. Okay? Now, we have completed the Great Stone Face Part 1. I am sure you are eagerly waiting to know the end of the story in Part 2. Wait for that. What did we learn today? Yes, we heard part of the story, the Great Stone Face, and then we did a few comprehension questions based on the text. We also did some activities working with language where we learnt how to transform adjectives into their noun forms. We learnt how to transform adjectives into adverbs and how to use them appropriately. In the last section, we learnt how to use the right form of verbs appropriately. We also looked at this activity, speaking and writing. That's all for today. See you next time. Bye. Thank you.